All right, everybody, welcome back. We are diving deep today. We're tackling Thinking Fast and Slow.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
You know, this book, it's a classic. It's
Yeah.
by Daniel Kahneman. He's a Nobel Prize winner. And it's really kind of like a user's manual for your brain, right?
Yeah. It's all about like how our minds make decisions, both the good ones and the bad ones.
The genius moves and the not-so-genius moves.
Exactly. And I think the coolest thing is how Kahneman breaks down our thinking. Like, he says we got these two systems, system 1 and system 2.
Okay, so two systems. What are these systems all about?
So system 1, it's like your autopilot, right? It's that fast, intuitive, effortless thinking. Like, think about when you swerve to avoid a car. You're not really thinking about it, you just do it.
Right, it's like instant. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, gotta move.
Exactly. Or, when you recognize a friend's face, boom, you just know.
Okay, so system one, that's our instinctual rapid response team.
Got it. So what about system 2? When does that one kick in? All right, so system 2. This is the more deliberate system. It's analytical. It's what you use when you're like solving a really complex math problem
Oh, yeah.
or planning a vacation.
Or having a tough conversation with somebody.
Yes, exactly. You're carefully thinking things through, weighing the pros and cons. It takes effort,
It
right?
does. It's not as automatic.
Right, not at all. It's more, conscious thought.
So I get it. But if system one is so fast and efficient, what's the catch? What's the downside of using it?
So here's the thing. Our brains, they're kind of lazy. I mean, not really, but they like to conserve energy. So they want to use system 1 as much as possible. And this, leads us to using these mental shortcuts.
Like taking the easy way out.
Yeah, basically. And they're called heuristics. Now, heuristics can be really helpful, for quick thinking, but they can also lead to biases.
Biases, yeah. I've definitely been tricked by those before.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Oh, well, I remember, like, when I was buying my first car, the dealer, right, he threw out this initial price, and it totally, like, anchored my idea of what was a reasonable price. Like, even though I kind of knew it was probably inflated,
Yeah.
it was so hard to shake that first number.
Classic anchoring bias. That's exactly what it is. That
Yeah.
first piece of information, that anchor, it sets the stage. And Kahneman, he points out that stores do this all the time,
Well,
like
he-
they showcase their most expensive items first.
Yes, to make everything else seem like a deal.
Exactly. So, okay, how do we avoid falling into these mental traps?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Well, awareness is huge. Like, just knowing about these biases can help. But let's dig into another big one. Confirmation bias. This is our tendency to like information that confirms our existing beliefs,
Yeah.
even if those beliefs are, maybe not totally accurate.
Right, so it's like, I'm only going to pay attention to the things that agree with what I already think.
Exactly. Like when you're scrolling through social media, right?
Oh, yeah?
You're more likely to click on articles that align with your views.
We're all guilty of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's just, it feels good to have our beliefs reinforced.
It does, even if we're missing out on other perspectives.
For sure. Okay, and then there's another big one. This one's huge, loss aversion. This is one of the most powerful forces when we make decisions.
Lots of aversion. Okay.
It boils down to this. The pain of losing, let's say, $100, it feels way worse than the pleasure of gaining $100.
That's true. I feel that.
Right. And this impacts so many of our decisions, especially financial ones. Like, it explains why some people hold on to those losing stocks for way too long.
Or why we avoid taking risks, even when they might have a big payoff.
Exactly. And Kahneman's prospect theory, that dives deep into how this fear of loss, it really drives so many of our choices. And often it makes us more risk averse than we need to be.
Wow. This is making me realize there's so much going on under the surface when we make decisions, even small ones.
It's incredible, right? And Kahneman, he talks about a couple of other really fascinating concepts. One is the illusion of understanding.
The illusion of understanding. Okay.
Yeah. So our brains, they love stories. We want to believe we understand why things happen, so we create these narratives to explain events.
Right, so we can make sense of things.
Exactly. These stories, they give us comfort, but they're not always accurate.
It's like we're hardwired to be storytellers, even if those stories sometimes lead us in the wrong direction.
Exactly. And that often leads to the planning fallacy.
The planning fallacy. Tell me about that one.
All right, so remember that project you mentioned, the one that took way longer than you expected?
Oh, don't remind me. Every project.
Right. We tend to be like way too optimistic about how long things will take or
Yeah.
how much they'll cost. Our system one thinking, it makes us underestimate like the potential for problems and delays.
Okay, so it sounds like our brains are working against us. Are we doomed to make irrational decisions?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, the point of understanding these systems and biases, it's not to criticize our brains, it's to become more aware, right?
Like to know your enemy?
Yeah, kinda. By recognizing these patterns, we can start making more uh more informed and rational choices.
It's about taking that brain user manual
Yeah,
and really applying it to our lives.
you got it. Now, here's a little challenge for you and for all our listeners out there. Think back to a decision you made. A decision that felt right at the time, but it turned out to be wrong.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. So, knowing what you know now about System 1 and System 2, which system was running the show, was there a bias lurking in the shadows, influencing things?
That is such a good question. I'm going to be thinking about that all day. You know, it really is a journey, right? Understanding how our minds work, it's lifelong, and hopefully it leads to better decision making.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for guiding us through this deep dive into thinking fast and slow. It's given us all a lot to chew on.
My pleasure. Always a good time.